I know is it has to be East Africa and that it has to be a motorbike. I was seeking something in the land of women. I was looking for something and I found it, fallen incredibly in love, massively in love.
Jordan Luke Collier, writer, philosopher, coach, and creator of powerful transformational programs, has spent over a decade guiding men to embody confidence, depth, and authenticity in the timeless dance between men and women.
I want to be a psychologist, but not for people with a psychiatric issue. I want to be a psychologist for healthy people. You are not confused, but within you there are different parts with their own different commitments that they all want to serve you with a different thing.
The thing that kind of taints everything that we do and destroys relationships and makes everything a shadow of what it could be is...
But I guess all these protagonists had to live out their tragedies in their relationships so that I don't have to. That's the kind of the point. A movie is a guide to life.
Maybe the living question is, am I in alignment? If I'm going in a different direction, even if it's slightly off, I can put a lot more energy in and I don't get closer.
What is sexual pleasure for you? You feel sexual shame, sure, but surely you feel sexual pleasure somewhere. Things that you fantasize about, things that I fantasize about, are full of things that actually can be harnessed and understood and integrated into embodied life. See where that experiment goes.
Beautiful. Hello and welcome to my podcast, the Adam Riley Podcast, where I'll be interviewing experts and interesting people from around the world with the intention of helping men, including myself, thrive in the modern world of dating, sex, and relationships. Make sure to subscribe and let's go. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you.
I want to share the first time that I saw you was in the... Search of the Alabaster Girl YouTube series with Zan. And I wanted to ask, like, how long ago was that and where were you in your journey at that point? Like, was that early on or, in your journey of, I guess, learning seduction, learning about women, and eventually becoming a coach.
Yeah,
where were you in that journey and how long ago was that?
Okay, diving straight in, when someone first says, Jordan, the first time I ever saw you, I'm expecting some story of misbehavior, like you saw me do something extremely embarrassing and that was going to be revealed to the world. So I'm kind of let off the hook.
Dodged the bullet.
Yeah. So the In Search of the Alabaster Girl series was recorded exactly 10 years ago, probably to the day, here in Bucharest in Romania.
That's cool, because it also, when I sat down here, I thought we were in a similar setting in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, sitting down with, just having a conversation.
So we had just wrapped up an Amorata conference, which has always been the last weekend of May. And then as people went home, Zan and I and Serene and then the others gathered, we had set up in one of the nightclubs in the old city. So I guess like 1 kilometer from here, we rented out the upstairs room. We had a TV crew come in and do that whole production. And it was in 2015 and the very end of May and early June in 2015, exactly 10 years ago. So it's kind of a funny...
That's cool.
Funny that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So in my journey, it was a really strange time, actually, because I'd been involved. My coaching journey had started in my mid-20s. So I went traveling. I was graduated university, didn't really like the options I saw around me. The only thing I felt any passion to do was to get the hell out of there and go traveling, discover, explore. Went to Latin America for 2 years, came back, found myself incredibly behind all my friends who are like getting their foot on the housing market. And I'm like, what are my options? How am I going to catch up? And I turned to coaching and personal development as a way to try and make up for lost time and give myself the soft skills, communication, influence.
Back then, I mean, I can imagine that the coaching scene has changed a lot. It's now, I don't know, it's becoming much more common or popular, but it's also not easy to be a coach. Like, how was it for you back then? Did you fall into it and have success quickly, or was it quite a struggle?
It was definitely 100% a struggle.
Yeah.
And I think those were my starving artist years.
Yeah.
And coaching, there were some successful coaches, but this is going back to 2008. And in the normal psyche, it was still weird. Oh, you have a coach. It's a bit like seeing a psychologist where you're doing that, even if it was for normal things, like coaching for success. But I was like, I have to do this. I'm interested in psychology. I've trained in psychology. I said to my friend that one of the last nights at university, remember having a smoke with him in a field in the summer and just being like, what do you want to do after all this has ended? And I said, I want to be a psychologist, but not for people with a psychiatric issue. I want to be a psychologist for healthy people. And I found this thread, which was coaching, but it took me 3-4 years to establish myself because, as many coaches are when we're inspired to take a coach training, I really, really wanted to build something great, but my life at the time was an absolute shambles. I'd just come back from traveling. I was, counting my pennies at the end of the week to see if I could go out and have a kebab for dinner or if I was going to have rice and beans the next night.
No.
So this was what was going on in the background as I was, striving towards success and making goals and visions and stuff like that.
That's such an interesting thing, isn't it? To be, to have great potential and know that you have great potential, and yet in your actual life, you don't have success, and so therefore, then, convincing people that you can help them is kind of challenging, even though you believe on some level that you can, and on some level that you can. And you would be successful if they believed you and gave you that opportunity,
Yeah. And at the same time, I in the warm up to the session with a client, I would feel very stressed. Like, can I? And I think typically for a lot of coaches in the early stages, I relied heavily on technique. Like, if I can do this coaching technique that I learned in the workshop on the person, then they would have some realization and get a result, and I would have performed really well. Coaching was all about my performance, and if I perform well, the person will get a change. So it was like a high stress situation, and it just took many years to relax out of that and really discover, if I just be with this person actually with my best resources over the course of an hour, they're going to get loads of value, which I can't really control what that is, but I trust that they will be able to absorb it. But it's taken years of very slowly accumulating self-trust to be able to sit and believe that as a truth.
I can imagine it's also accumulation of knowledge and wisdom, right? Like maybe in the beginning you needed more structure to lean on.
Yeah.
Then with time and with experience, that structure kind of gets internalized in a way, and it becomes intuition. And what about coming back to your 10 years ago?
The Alabaster Girl.
The Alabaster Girl. Where were you then, and where were you then, and how have things evolved for you since?
Okay, so I'd been coaching, starving artist coach, trying to make this work for a few years. I met Zan, and the ARS Amorata message was a revelation for me and my dating life in particular. And after 2 or 3 years of that, I was seeking something in the land of women. I was dating a lot. I was very active. I was looking for something, and I found it. I'd fallen incredibly in love, massively in love.
This was already 10 years ago.
This was just before we filmed the Alabaster Girl series.
Wow, okay. So quite an important moment in time.
Yeah, it was. So I would say probably 6 months before we shot that, I fell hugely in love with a woman who fell quite in love with me back, but not all the way. And that was a massive experience, which threw up a lot of questions, because like with that much love, with that much emotional charge and that much passion that we shared, I end up thinking, God, we've got to be soulmates or something like that, soulmates or twin flames. How do two people find each other? And there's so much feeling and meaning behind the whole thing. I was like, this has got to be a soulmate encounter. And then I'm like, well, is the way that we fall in love with each other, is this an invitation to some transcendent thing? Have I gone beyond myself in some important way and grown into a deeper form of love than most people know or that I ever knew? Or is it that it's just shadow and mummy issues and my projection of my hopes and my fantasies? Like, where am I going here? Am I transcending, or am I going back into some like lost little boy who is projecting on just some girl, idealization fantasy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, it's both. I mean, it took a lot of discovery to realize both can be true at the same time. And I came to Romania and I was like dealing with these questions. And then I sat down with Zan and his book and made that whole series from that place. And I think if I made the series with Zan a year before, my questions would have been much more technical, strategic. The mind is like, how do I do this to get the result I want with women? To have more women or more beautiful women. I would have been attacking it from a mental hunger. And when we filmed that series, I was like, I've just been blown away. My questions are very big and severe, and I don't need the strategy. I want the deeper insight. Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool to have that insight of where you were at. And I remember that I was impressed by the way you were able to articulate concepts and kind of take what Zan was saying and break it apart and say, does that mean this and does that mean that? And I think it really helped me understand what was going on.
Cool.
And the conversation that was happening. There was also like my entry into ARS Amorata.
Okay.
I mean, I'd heard about the Alabaster Girl book. I'd started to read it, but then I heard there's a YouTube series, and I was like, I would prefer to watch something. So I started to watch that, and I started to fall in love with this message too. And it drew me into the journey of starting to come here to Bucharest as well. And
it's nice to know.
Yeah.
The series was worth our while.
There you go.
Worth all the too many coffees and the sleepless nights and the underlining of the book. Like, I was study for that series like it was a university book that I needed to cover. Yeah. I couldn't leave questions dangling that the viewer might have unanswered. It was my duty to go through Sam's book with a fine tooth comb and pick out really some of the strangest angles.
And that's quite an in-depth thing to do in a whole book. I mean, I will be honest, like, I haven't finished it. I've been going through it slowly over the last 3 years, and I'm listening to it because it came out. So I read half of it, and then it came out on audiobook, and I started listening to it, and it's 13 hours.
Okay.
And I listen to, half an hour at a time every couple of months or something, and it feels like enough at that time, and I sit with that, I guess. But that's quite an intense process to really go through a book and underline things and come up with questions and feel like you need to make sure that people understand it.
Yeah. I was thankful for my philosophy degree. It came good in the end.
Because of the learning to do that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I went to university and I was the first in my family to do so, but I chose to study philosophy. So everyone's like, what good is that going to do here in the real world? What's that for? And I'm just thinking, well, I feel like a contemplative type and I want to get out of home. So it feels like the right thing to do. But it's funny that one can learn skills in a philosophy degree that actually have a real world application 10 years on down the line. So I guess that's the fruition.
Is it the skill of like breaking things down and asking deeper questions?
Sure.
That would be it, right?
Yeah, that's definitely one part of it.
What's the other part?
Then questioning it. So one thing that I've done over the years is, Zan has got his message fully formed, particularly in the realm of relationships, dating relationships, men and women. He's got a fully formed and complete message. And I come into the back of that, and I love the message, and I've been working as a coach with the men who want to understand it and embody it for themselves and in their own lives, which can be quite a journey. And so Zen teaches a lot of stuff, and some people struggle to embody it for themselves. And so I've got to be quite rigorous. Like, how can I help them embody it? But then does Zen say some things that maybe are unhelpful? Or what if I go via negativa? Zen says ease and delight as the first principle in our relationships. Approach women, approach your long-term partner, approach difficulties in a relationship with an attitude of ease and delight. Beautiful, beautiful. But what about dis-ease and angst and vitriol and pain? Do they have a place in a relationship? Well, of course they do. And how do we be with things like that? And can I show unease and dislike? Because we've all got parts of ourselves that, like, we want to shut the door at some point to intimacy, or something with our partner doesn't really strike us in a way that we like. So how do we be with that? Should I hide that because I'm an ease and delight guy? Or should I come in and say, baby, I'm annoyed with you today. I feel irritated, and I need my space, or set a boundary. Please stop doing that. There's a whole area. There are vast areas that Zen doesn't touch on that end up becoming questions. So,
okay, so in the in this interview, I don't remember everything, but you kind of took it to bring these things up and see where that would flow with him as well.
Yeah,
is that what you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
A few times, as much as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't let it's like an interview, right? Let's say this is a political interview, and I'm in one party on one side of the political spectrum. Well, it's your duty actually to not only give me the good grace to explain my manifesto in a beautiful way, you got to grill me on the dark side of my manifesto. And why don't I represent the other 50% of the population? So you got to call me to account live on TV. That's journalism, but it's also philosophy. You can't give everyone an easy ride.
I think that's
in the name of truth, right? In the name of
sure.
Let me tackle the parts of what you don't say, so that we might actually land in a deeper truth. Yeah. That's big from my philosophy department. In
your memory, did you come to any new territory with Zen through those explorations?
Through the podcast itself?
Yeah, I guess so. Or if not, in between. Have you seen that things have changed? Or I feel like, okay, we were just in the conference, and at the end you guys were talking, and Zen said that the work you guys do is very, very complementary.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, I think it's very important. Zen has his message, which is a great message and a beautiful message, and it's very inspiring. And then, as you just said, many men, including myself, can't always do that stuff because there's a bunch of other stuff in the way. There's a bunch of anxiety, angst, trauma, whatever. So I think, the work that you do around that is very important. And it was great to see Zan kind of acknowledging that, because I've also heard him, say that he doesn't believe in therapy, which is, quite an intense statement.
Can be quite invalidating for a lot of people.
Yeah,
right? You might feel the need.
Exactly, and for me, my view of, like, I look at therapy meaning anything that's healing, actually, in a way. And in that sense, my whole journey is a kind of a therapy. Or, I've been very deep into spiritual journey, spiritual practices, and I realized at some point that most spiritual practices are in fact a kind of therapy, in the sense that their goal is to heal.
Yeah.
Their goal is to kind of clean up what's going on inside. So I guess coming back to the original question, I don't know, do you feel like there's been some evolution there?
in Zan's view on therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you grill him on his big total statement, I don't believe in therapy, he'll backpedal and actually, give a number of caveats.
Okay.
I think Zan looks out at the world and sometimes sees people that could take action, that do have the vigor to do something, but rather than just rolling up your sleeves and getting your fingers dirty and getting on with something in life, they'll use therapy as an out. Like, I just want to go and talk about my feelings because I don't fancy the direct challenge itself. And that's a call to men to just step, like, without fixing yourself or having to over contemplate, or without doubting yourself, just see if you can meet the challenge of life head on, which is, I guess, is what everyone in history was forced to do before therapy became this more democratized thing. But at the same time, I mean, if you're running painful dynamics with women or with friends, or happens because of your family situation or your professional situation, if you find yourself in a place where there's pain again and again and again, and you're contributing to that, then that has to be addressed. Otherwise, you will not get out of that cycle that inflicts pain on self and other.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I hear that, and thanks for clarifying that kind of view of his, of not using doing the inner work to not show up in the world, basically.
Yeah.
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 What's your take on the balance between doing the inner work and showing up in the world?
A year has 4 seasons. So as we come into autumn, built into that spirit of kind of going inwards and descending, it's typically a period more of reflection and looking at one's feelings and looking at, what patterns have emerged during the year. It's a reflective season. And then winter is almost a hibernation. And then spring comes and it's like, okay, I feel fresh, and these hormones and these emotions are starting to tingle and give me life. I want to go out again into the world. And then summer is like, every single weekend we've got plans to make the most out of life while we're young and the weather is good. So I think that model of 4 seasons is beautiful. And when it comes to being a person on a journey of growth, let's say, we cycle through these 4 seasons. And if you get locked in action, but you never have an autumn where you're like, or an end of the day, let's say, or end of the month where you sit and you kind of collect the harvest of what you've done and then assess. I took action all summer, but like, was it good action? Did it lead me towards my goals? Did I actually enjoy the harvest of my goals? Was it ethical? Was it beautiful? Was it wise? Was it shared? Are there regrets? What worked well? What would work better? If you're not having any of those questions on your action, then you're going to set yourself up for more summers of unconscious action that doesn't really lead to anything wider. But also you could stay in a period of winter forever, which is, I'm just going to watch YouTube videos and listen to audiobooks and, be addicted to podcasts, basically, feeling like I need to fill up this hole with more knowledge, as if brain knowledge is actually going to really move the needle. Well, some does, but you get full. Then you need to come into spring and be like, okay, what's my year going to be about? What am I projecting? What are my goals? How do I want to act? What's my vector? Something like that feels even to me.
I really like that, and I really like the use of the analogy, I guess, of the seasons. And I think of that in terms of anxiety and mental health or mood, where we have these seasons, and it can be throughout the day, it can be over a week or a month or a year, and we have these times when we go down, and we have times when we're up.
Yeah.
And it's all of those times are important. They have their purpose. And if we can make the most of when we are down, that's going to, in a sense, move the needle forward and to where we're going, as much as making the most of when we have energy and when we're in our summer and we're able to take action and do things. Even if I give the example of doing things like this podcast, in between, I have times when I'm down or when I'm nervous and when I think that I couldn't do something like this. And it's by allowing myself to go fully into that and process that I actually can do it, and that I show up, and that I can show up, to a level that I wouldn't be able to if I didn't go through that, or maybe not at all.
Yeah. That heartbreak that I mentioned before, it was really hard to come back to Romania in the midst of feeling really kind of cut and shredded apart, and be in a context of men that were like, it's springtime, get out, take action, do stuff. And let's say 95% of the conference were all men who wanted to take massive action and, push forward and get in your masculine spirit and move towards women and change your life. And I'm just like in this period of deep reflection. I felt completely alone and alienated. Like, who understands this? Am I weird? But I had to give myself, and for a long period of time, I just did not resonate with people who were taking action. But you can't force yourself out of the season, because the incongruence that builds, and probably the issues with your health that builds, are so much. Deep love and compassion for oneself is the only thing, and patience to come through. Yeah.
When you say you can't force yourself out of the season, you mean just honoring the season that you're in?
Yeah. You took some action, some big things happened, you're broken, and you've been smashed to smithereens, and you have to put yourself together again. Well, it takes a while. But at the same time, I kind of learned, like, one of the weirdest lessons is leading with heartbreak or leading with grief. So I still had to go to work and do something. So even though for most of the week all I want to do is lay in bed and read spiritual books to try and understand my predicament, I would still have some phone calls that I would have to do, some clients, and that's just part of being an adult in the world with the needs to pay the bills and deliver on your promises. Just because I'm in a personal autumn or winter doesn't mean that I can entirely hide from that. I mean, sometimes you can build yourself a structure to fall apart, and some people do. I know people that, take a 2-year sabbatical and they go fully into their journey, right? But at this time, I still have coaching calls and I still have groups that I'm leading, and I had a retreat that I was leading. And it's like, how do I lead even though I feel grief, like massive grief? Even though I feel heartbreak, can I still show up to work? And that was a really interesting edge, because it's like I'm sat around feeling agony in my body. I'm feeling sorry for myself in my mind. I'm asking all these questions about myself. And then all of a sudden someone pops up on the Zoom screen and I have to be there for them. Well, I could cancel all my sessions and then end up not paying my bills and, moving into someone's sofa or whatever it is. Or it's like, how do I be with all these feelings and still give something? And this was magical, because to do my work from a place where I felt grief and brokenhearted, I brought the textures of grief and a broken heart into my coaching. So rather than being this toxically positive, you can change your life coach, I became more of a coach that was like, yeah, even in your greatest moments, you might get broken coach, which brings a depth of compassion. And it was really vulnerable to do my work in that period, but it took me a massive layer deeper. And that felt really in service of people.
Beautiful. I want to go in a slightly different direction. Well, I think this is within every conversation that we've had, is My favorite topic this year is alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So, firstly, I'll just ask, what does this word mean to you, and how do you, like, is it something that you think about, and how do you implement it or think of it in your life?
Alignment. First thing that comes is that it's not easy, and that I personally need solitude to find whatever that is. And I need some kind of practice of shedding superficial selves or aspects of my thinking and come into a deeper place within. I struggle to do this with my girlfriend, right? So she has a very fiery energy and a lot of energy, which is great for so many things. When it comes to personal alignment, she can have a big energetic influence and then pull me left and right. So I need to wake up earlier than her, have my coffee, and I sit and write. I can meditate, but typically through writing. And for good health, I need 3 or 4 days alone a month.
Well,
and that's not always possible. And when I don't do that, I realize that I suffer and my alignment suffers. And then I'm pulled about, like I say, by the stresses of the day or what my girlfriend wants, or I might enter into a compromise with my own self, or adopting ways of kind of peacemaking between other people's goals. So I've got my goal, and I've got that goal, and I've got her goal, and I've got this goal. And all of a sudden I'm building a very mental, unified plan of how can I make everyone's goals happen? Before I know it, I'm quite ineffective and unhappy because I'm trying to carry everyone's plate. And so one of the cool things I did was a dark retreat.
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah. 7 days, 7 nights in the darkness, nothing to do, no vision, no sound, only meditate, only yoga on the floor, only sleep. They delivered my food through a little kind of box, like a letter box in the side. So I had food and a little bell, and the food came in once a day. Actually, I heard the rustle. It sounded like mice. So when the food came, there was this mouse rustling coming. That was one of the practices that I did that got me best in alignment with myself. But yeah, it can be hard, and it's like always coming back.
Digging deeper into it, and I want to ask soon about finding alignment within a relationship as well, because you have 2 people, and I think that maybe exponentially makes things more complicated. But when I'm thinking of alignment, and I think it aligns with what you're saying, kind of, that it's like a shedding of all of the conditioning and other people's ideas and the shoulds and all this kind of stuff, and finding what is, I guess, true for me, and kind of comes from a deeper layer of my being. And one of the contemplations that I have around it is like, because it's talked of this little voice, the little voice that you don't hear unless all of the rest of the noise is cleared away. So this is one way we talk about intuition, and also, potentially finding alignment would be like getting to the place where you can hear this little voice. But there's also another thing that I think happens when you're in the cave, or you're able to spend days alone, or the time that's needed, because I also need time to myself to really process things. And that is where, like, within myself, there's all these different opinions and parts. I don't know if you're probably familiar with IFS. Yeah. So, I have all these parts that have different opinions, and they're like different personalities. And on some level, I feel like what's also happening is that, like a good leader of my system, I'm listening to all of the parts and actually finding a solution that is, best for everyone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So these two, I'm not sure exactly which one is more true, if they're both happening at the same time. But I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there and see what that brings up for you.
Well, the couple of things come to mind while you're sharing. The first is parts work I'm using with most of the coaching clients that I'm with right now. And they'll come and they'll say, look, I want to find alignment, let's say, and I'm confused. Part of me wants this and part of me wants that and part of me wants that, and I feel like I should do this. So with a process like IFS, which is to understand that you are not confused, but within you there are various different parts with their own different commitments that they all want to serve you with a different thing. And now you're, like I said before, well, I want this, my girlfriend wants that, and my family wants that, and my boss wants that. Well, that's a lot of people to deal with, but just in my own mind, I have all these things internalized. So if a person can understand what are the 4 or 5 biggest parts that hold the biggest sway in their psyche, they do a bit of parts work and they understand the influence that these parts are having, those parts can melt, which means they learn to really quieten down. And with that headspace, I mean, if you identify, I think most people are clear about the idea of having inner voices. Well, let's say you have 5 inner voices that are really big and they're all different characters. What if you talk to those voices so that they melt and they're less impactful? You would have a lot more mental silence.
Yeah.
So if there is something like an inner whisper, like the soul is whispering in a very delicate way, well, all of a sudden you can start to hear that more. Because so this is a coaching tool that I think is fundamental right out of the gate. Do some parts work, quiet down the mind, and see what then you feel. I've also got a number of men work with me, both younger and older in generation, that get to a point where they're like, look, I came to you for some dating relationship advice. I was stuck in this thing with women or a woman, and I felt like we've untangled that, and I'm not all the way there, but I don't want to do any coaching anymore, and I don't want to do any dating anymore, and I'm deleting the apps and I'm deleting social media. All I want to do is I had this vision since I was young. One of my former clients right now is in East Africa on a motorbike, and he's just driving his motorbike into nothing. Just all I know is it has to be East Africa and that it has to be a motorbike, and I'm literally driving. And if it gets to the end of the afternoon and I arrive in a village, then I might just stop the bike, grab a drink, and ask if there's somewhere to sleep. So this is a kind of soul journey into the earth where I have an imagination, a vision of something I need to do to get into the roots and the dust and the soil. And within that, I think we said over the weekend, if you move away from the town where you grew up and all the people that box in and condition your personality and stop you from acting in outlandish ways through the tools of judgment and ostracism and shame and teasing and bullying and all the rest of it, if you get out of that, you can start to become somebody different. And if you take away the city, if you take away the computer, if you take away all bearings of the human civilization and just sit in the wild. We had one of our speakers, Jean, talk about a trip to the Antarctic that he made. For a couple of weeks, he was on a boat just off the coast of the Antarctic. Down there's no civilization. He said, I'd sit on this boat at midnight. No one was awake. I was the only one on watch. And the waves would come in. And I could just see under the light that there was, huge glaciers and sheaths of ice. And then there was like Black Sea with the kind of silver lining of the waves, the moon and stars above me. And I know that the nearest city is 1,000 miles away. And even that city doesn't really have any services. It's just a small town at the very bottom of Argentina. There's no bearings. I've lost all my bearings. And I've lost all the reminders of my conventional self. all I know myself to be is this awareness in the elements. And then what can surface from that place? He said it was just a deep peace and a tremendous, tremendous joy that he'll never forget for the rest of his life. And I think in a state like that, people commonly say that they listen to the whisper that you're talking about, which is, I live for this, or this is the thing that I want to bring to the world, or this is the thing I want to commit to. Actually, my woman at home that I've been ambivalent about, she gives me the thing I need, and I need to let go of my thoughts about it and just commit. Or the opposite, the woman I'm ambivalent about at home is like, what am I fooling? Happier without her, and have to let that relationship go. And the same with purpose type stuff. So I think there's something fundamental. You don't have to quit your job and go traveling for 2 years like you might in your early 20s.
Don't
right?
have to ride through East Africa on a motorbike.
Yeah, you don't have to do something so dramatic, but there has to be, I believe, for a real transformational process, this dissolving of the parts, some of the big parts that keep us stuck and separate and in the cycles of suffering. And I think we have to put ourselves in a situation where we might have such a revelation.
Yeah.
And that's the vision quest, right? Go on the mountain 4 days, 4 nights, no food. Pray for a vision, but in nature, and sleep in nature.
I think of something in my experience recently, which is exactly the opposite. In a way, I've done many vision quests. I've been traveling for 20 years, and I've been in all kinds of these kinds of situations. And I think throughout, even as a person who is quite unaware, as a younger person, I would have these moments where I understood this is the next thing that I have to do. Mm-hmm. Basically got in touch with my intuition. But recently I had a situation where it was very much the opposite, where I was completely out of alignment. And this was what actually brought this up for me, because I was in my work situation in something that was starting to take up a lot of my mental energy, and it's something that a company that I've had for a long time, and it's always taken care of me. And then I just realized how out of alignment it was for me to be in this anymore. Like I felt miserable, that I felt like I resented any energy that I had to put into this thing, even though there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. It's a great company, and it's beautiful what it does. A tour in paradise in Panama. But it felt so out of alignment for me to be giving any more energy for this. I was like, I would prefer to be broke in a shack in Bali, just eating rice and doing what I feel passionate about and believe in, than to give more energy to this. Mm-hmm. And I had to feel it so viscerally for me to get out, because basically, this is what's been taking care of me for 15 years.
Yeah. And
it's a leap into the unknown for me, where I've decided to leave that situation. And I'm burning the bridges behind me in a sense, and I can only go forward. And since doing that, it's never felt better. I mean, I've never felt more in alignment, and things are working, whereas before they weren't in my new project. And so I got this huge contrast of what it feels like to be really out of alignment, and then to actually make a big decision, a scary decision that wasn't disappearing, into nature, but it was just cutting something that was needed to be cut from my life. Yeah.
Beautiful. Sounds harsh as well, like in the midst of the fire.
It was. It was.
Someone might say, because the pain, I mean, I can relate to your story, and I can relate to the pain in the middle of being so vastly out of alignment and feeling that like intense, visceral, I don't want to give it another scrap of energy to this. I have to go. I'd rather eat rice and take an oath of poverty, live under the bridge rather than do this. Some people might then say, God, I don't want to be in that situation. Hopefully I'm going to be in alignment all the time and never have this crisis of alignment. But I wonder actually if it's wise to go through what you went through and if it's necessary. And had you quit your previous work a year or two before, maybe there would be something lost from not going right into this kind of crash and burn scenario of such visceral angst.
Yeah, it's obviously not something I would choose, but in a sense, everything, when I look back, everything is perfect. And I even see it as that journey itself woke me up to how important alignment is and to make that a priority of my life. And also something that I want to share, as a priority is like, it actually in dating, in business, in life, the thing that really makes things, how do I say, the thing that kind of taints everything that we do and destroys relationships and makes everything a shadow of what it could be is attachment to the outcome, attachment to like some kind of neediness around it or some feeling of like I need this to be a certain thing for me to feel okay. That's, it's age old. It's in all of the spiritual, at least Eastern spirituality. It's attachment is the thing that they're trying to fix, right? And it's the same thing, attachment to the outcome. And I thought recently, what if my outcome that I get attached to is alignment?
Sounds dangerous.
Meaning not attached to, but like that's the outcome that I'm looking for in everything.
Okay.
So it's like, I'm always asking the question, talking about living questions. For me, maybe the living question is, am I in alignment? Or what is aligned for me right now? And yeah, it came from another podcast that I did where it's like, I realized that any energy, if alignment in a way, it's not in a straight line, but if you imagined it is that I'm aligned and I'm going in this direction that of my deepest longing and what my soul wants to do, that's the best direction of my life. If I'm going in a different direction, even if it's slightly off, the energy that I'm putting in is actually like not taking me closer, or it's not getting me much closer, and I can put a lot more energy in and I don't get closer. Whereas if I'm in alignment, I can put much less energy in and actually still be moving towards the goal. So this kind of counteracts hustle culture and the feeling that I need to do all these things. And this is what has been my experience. The more I relax and just do the things that are feeling aligned, it's not always easy, the things that are easy, because sometimes the things that feel aligned are challenging.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like that's my greatest living question, I guess.
As you're talking about alignment, I'm in a state of inquiry listening to you. And I could feel 50-60% of my brain power is asking that same question. So I've just had a week off, a week on, a working week in Bucharest, and in the next day or two I'll fly back to my girlfriend, and we're in Spain at the minute for the next few months. And then what I do in the next few months is a vast open mystery. Actually, the choice, and this is a very privileged place to be, the choice of what I create in that is quite vast. It's not infinitely vast. I do have constraints, but it's quite open. And then what I choose to do, I don't quite know. And sometimes I'm like, actually, I've got another 8 months of delivery on this, that, and the other, and that determines what it's going to look like. So I'm in a question of alignment, and I don't know. I've been sat on that all weekend. I'm sitting on it now. I don't know. And what I feel is mystery, great, vast mystery. The one thing, basically the only thing that I know, like return to first principles, right? What do I know to be true? The one thing I know to be true, and I discovered this around the age of 35, let's say, is when I wake up, let's say I have a really good coffee and a cup of tea, particularly if I meditate, because it opens my state and allows me to touch a little deeper. But I get out of my computer and write. And I might write from the beginning to the end and then edit it a few times and fix it. Or I might have a piece of writing I started yesterday but couldn't quite be finished, but in this morning state with calm mind, fresh caffeine, an empty area. My girlfriend has gone out. I'm alone in the house. There is nature. There is a cold wind or whatever it is. And I sit and I finish the piece of writing. If I really, there's a particular intensity I want to put into what I write. And if I feel like I deliver that onto the page and finish it, and then when I press post, I feel in my guts a sense of excitement because I conveyed the thing that I wanted to convey in the writing. If I press post and it's gone and it's delivered to the world, something is released from me. Just had the sense of an ejaculation. It's like a feeling of orgasm, like a feeling of build-up and intensity and direction and purpose has been released, and I'm good. My girlfriend comes back, I'm a hero. I feel like I've won the world. I'm in a great mood. Everything that happens for the rest of the day is sublime and divinely orchestrated, and I'm just at one with everything. And if I don't participate in a day where I don't participate in this act of writing, creativity, hit and publish, because I'm confused with something else, or I've sold my time to something I don't believe in so much, or any number of things, the days that I don't do that, I can range anywhere from mildly irritated to entirely bitter with all of existence and everyone around me. So this is something I know to be true on a kind of purpose level. People say, like, what is your purpose? Well, the purpose, I think, is something non-verbal. Words are just an attempt to transmit that or, let you know what I mean. But the real purpose is this sense of energy, this signature of, can I do this thing that somewhere in my guts and my heart or my soul is screaming to be done? And am I taking a meaningful step forward today in doing that? And if I can do that, I feel an incredible release. And that's alignment for me. That's one thing I know to be true about alignment. There might come an age where I just don't have this anymore. There's no more writing that needs to be done, or something else is giving me this build-up of tension. Maybe there's something, purpose is always spoken of with the masculine or masculine energy. And masculine has a sense of purpose. For me, it follows this almost biological cycle of build up and release, pressure, irritation, angst, and then one perfect moment of the essence is given and made manifest on the outside world. And yeah, if I'm not participating in that cycle in the way that it occurs to my body and my being, which is different to my brain and how I might fool myself, if I can give that real energy that needs to be given, yeah, that's a wonderful life.
I like that. I feel something similar. I actually would like to write more, and I feel like I haven't set up my life well enough. Well, I've just been all over the place, and I don't have a good routine, but just the first few hours in the morning, and I wish I could drink coffee, but I can't, otherwise I won't sleep. But the first few hours in the morning is also my focus time. And if I can focus that time on the thing where I'm sharing my gift in a way, and I've experienced that in the past, and that has felt like the rest of the day is good. Like I've done that at least 2 hours in the morning, and I've like put something down and I've created something. Yeah, that was kind of the last 3 months for me in Bali, the beginning of this year. So after this transition period, feeling deeply in my purpose as well. I want to ask, I guess, a kind of somewhat closing question. What's alive for you now? I know that you're always creating, and I know you've done a lot of interesting programs through ARS Amorata, and potentially, you create programs that have been very transformative for people. I've heard a few guys talk about your program around movies. I guess like teaching about life and seduction. I'm not sure exactly through movies, but I heard raving reviews. I know that you've done work around archetypes, which I'm sure is great as well. Like I've heard a little bit and it sounds very interesting. But what's alive for you now? Like what are you creating?
I'm in a transitional period, similar to you. I've just come from Asia and starting to plant feet and roots in Europe. And I do have an open space, and I'm not quite sure what the next big thing is. And I've just wrapped up 2 seasons of the movie course. The first one is the hidden sides of seduction, and the second one is the hidden sides of relationship. So when a man and a woman meet, there's hidden communication or sub-communication, as Zan calls it, right? Like the meeting of eyes from across the room. But it's not just that you two people meet each other through the eyes. You bring all of your personal psychology into that gaze, and so does the other person. So love at first sight can also be intense psychological entanglements, which can be extremely dangerous on first sight, and we spot exactly the right dueling partner we need to run our patterns with. So I'm talking about, in these courses, I'm talking about the real hidden dynamics that affect seduction or attraction or intimate relationship over the long term. And I showed the guys 16 movies. Most of them are utterly brutal. It's not like, happy seduction, happy romance. It's like these people go really through some things. You end with a test of character. Is the protagonist going to transform and transcend his pattern, or is it going to be a tragedy and he's going to live out the pain of that? And therefore, as one of the guys who went through the movie course said, God, this was really intense viewing, but I guess all these protagonists had to live out their tragedies in their relationships so that I don't have to. That's kind of the point. A movie is a guide to life. It's the same as a fable, right? Kind of an old biblical story. There was a man from this village who went out and he did this and he met this and that and the other. So they kind of guide the way. I think it's in a way it's today's fables and parables and nursery
storytelling.
Yeah. Myths and so on. So that was a great phase, and we wrapped that up. And I'm sat in a bit of an open space, but one thing that I've just found a missing piece. So as an antidote to sexual shame, over the years, a lot of my clients have said, I feel sexual shame. I want to understand and heal my sexual shame. Well, we can work therapeutically on the shame and the healing of that, but that's just one side of the story. What's the other side? What is sexual pleasure for you? You feel sexual shame, sure, but surely you feel sexual pleasure somewhere and somehow. And you talk about the moments where you're closing down and things are not working for you sexually or erotically. But when in your life have things worked, and what constituted those moments? There has to be a positive psychology of your erotic life. And for a lot of people, this happens in their fantasies. Could be in their peak sexual experiences, could be in their fantasies. I asked a room full of people, have you ever had a sexual fantasy? Do you have sexual fantasies? You know, I think there was one person who didn't put their hand up, but 99% of the room, everyone had their hand. Yeah. And so I'm interested in what is the psyche actually doing when it creates a sexual fantasy? And when people talk about dreams, they say the dreams are not accidental. It's not just like this flushing of random imagery. Actually, the psyche is producing images through dreams to help make meaning or bring completion to some issue or some area of life. And if we can understand our dreams in the morning, contemplate them, embody what is there to be taught through the dreams, then we can get some real life wisdom. And there's ancient paths, you know, mystics and wise old sages throughout the ages that have used dreams to help people orient their waking life because they contain hidden symbols and springs of energy. So I believe the same about sexual fantasies. Things that you fantasize about, things that I fantasize about, are full of things that actually can be harnessed and understood and integrated into embodied life. So we might recapture. Most people are, when they fantasize, whether it's a romantic daydream of some girl and some relationship I really wanted, or whether it's kind of brutal, animalistic, primal force, typically we disassociate. So in my daydreamy fantasy world, I see and I imagine all these things that I would like. But that energy doesn't come through the body. So I'm like, what if we can recapture the images that we dream about and bring them into the body and reassociate our erotic selves? So I've got a trial sexual fantasy workshop and sexual fantasy and embodiment workshop coming, and we'll see where that experiment goes.
I love the sound of it. I would feel like we could sit here for another hour and talk just about that, and I would love to dive into that maybe in another one, but it sounds very exciting, and I think very needed. I think it's a great idea. How can we'll bring this to an end now, but how can people find you?
So Jordan Luke Collier is my name. You can find my website. I have a Substack. It's inactive. I think 100% of my work right now is coming through ARS Amorata. Okay. So if you go to arsamorata.com and get the newsletter there, then you'll sign up for updates and recent reports of all these things and more.
Awesome. Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me.